Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Teena Jha, you're watching Perspective. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assumed charge of the Prime Minister for the third time on Monday. The first file that he signed was related with the release of the 17th installment of the PM KISAN Nidhi scheme. The installment is expected to benefit 9.3 crore farmers and entails distribution of around 20,000 crore rupees. After signing the file, the Prime Minister said his government is fully committed to Kisan Kalyan and therefore it was fitting that the first file signed by him on taking charge is related to farmer welfare. The Prime Minister also assured that he will continue to work for the welfare of farmers and the upliftment of the agriculture sector in the times to come. So in Perspective today, we analyze with two distinguished guests the significance of the move, which is the first by the Modi 3.0 government, what this means for the farmers who are beneficiaries of the scheme and largely for the agriculture sector. So let me begin by introducing the guests to you. With me in the studio is Mr. Alok Sinha, former Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture. And joining us virtually is Dr. Atanu Purkayastha, former Secretary, CIC, Government of India. Thank you to both my guests and welcome to Sansad TV. But before we go to the guest perspective, a quick backgrounder to you viewers on what the PM KISAN Nidhi scheme is all about. So the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme was launched back in 2019. It offers eligible farmers an annual financial assistance of 6,000 rupees. This amount is distributed in 3 equal installments of 2,000 rupees every 4 months, directly deposited into the beneficiaries' bank accounts. So we'll talk about how empowering this scheme has been also with the two guests. But let me begin the discussion with the guest in the studio, Mr. Sinha. The third consecutive term for the Prime Minister and the first decision that he takes is related to the Annadatas of the country. How significant is this move according to you?
I think symbolically it's very powerful because of a few points, like 2/3 of India lives in the villages, like the fact that agricultural growth since 2014 has been good, but in the first 1.5 decades of the 21st century, it never crossed 3%. So there has been agricultural stagnation to a large extent till 2013. After 2014, it has taken off in a progressive graph, but much more needs to be done. So the Prime Minister has done a very correct thing by giving a very powerful message that the focus of his government would be on rural development, agricultural progress and the welfare of the Kisans, since 2/3 of India lives in the villages.
Dr. Purkayastha, it's significant because it's going to benefit over 9 crore farmers. It entails distribution of 20,000 crore rupees. But if I may, begin by understanding from you about the scheme altogether. It was initially launched for a smaller section, but later on it was expanded to include more farmers. And how empowering, according to you, has the PM KISAN Nidhi scheme been for the farmers of the country?
Almost of the population is dependent on agriculture sector for their livelihood, and the country also is dependent on that 50% population for production of the food grain. It is very important that for every government that the focus of the development scheme has to be with the farmers who are actually generating the rural economy. You see, Indian economy is such that if the farming season is good, I mean, if there is a good harvest, then it actually sets the whole economy into motion. Right. If the agriculture season is bad, then it has a negative impact on the other sectors of the economy. So it is very important that the farmers who are the driving factors for the agriculture in the country, they should be properly taken care of by the government. And it's very significant that the first file that the Prime Minister, as you say, has signed today is regarding this scheme, and it's regarding this scheme which is actually focusing on farmers' welfare.
Mr. Sinha, the assurance from the Prime Minister comes that his government and he himself is committed to Kisan Kalyan. If we look back at his 2 terms, what have been some of the landmark schemes that he's brought about which have changed the outlook of the agriculture sector, and how have they made the farmers, they've in fact brought the farmers into the mainstream, empowered them altogether, something which was a promise of the Prime Minister in both his previous terms?
2 of the schemes come to mind immediately. One is the PM KISAN Nidhi, of which 20,000 crores has been signed off today morning. That, coupled with the Kisan Fasal Bima Yojana, which takes care of the ravages of the climate and other such adverse effects which could affect adversely the crop output. I think these 2 schemes put together has been a great help to the farmers, because in the last 9 years or 10 years or so, agricultural output has crossed well over 300 million tons. Horticultural output has in fact crossed the agricultural output. In dairy development, we are doing so well that now Amul is being exported to the US under the Amul brand name. I mean, it is not only a big honor for India, it also shows that the Indian manufacturing brand has now got universal acceptability. So, therefore, if we see all these things put together, our rural development and rural economy is not stagnating anymore as it was in the first decade of this 21st century. However, while our GDP is ranging between 7 to 8% per year, which is very good for a large economy like ours, the share of the agricultural sector as part of this GDP is less than 20%. That is what needs to be focused on,
Yes.
and that is what the PM is repeatedly focusing on. We have to increase the income of the farmers and the rural villagers, not only for their sake, but also if their purchasing power increases, then the marketability of Indian manufacture goes up geometrically. So, for the Indian manufacturing progress to go up in a dramatic fashion, the purchasing power of the villager has to be improved accordingly.
Dr. Purkayastha, we've seen there have been transformational schemes that have been brought about in the Prime Minister's previous 2 terms to increase the share of agriculture in the country's GDP, but it's exactly not to a satisfactory level. Things will have to be worked upon even in the 3rd term. So, as the Modi 3.0 embarks on its 3rd term, what kind of acceleration do you see coming in from the new government as far as the agriculture sector is concerned?
I agree with what Mr. Sinha has said, that the share of the farmers, of the farming community in the GDP of exactly because of the fact that the income that is generated by the agriculture sector, the profit that is generated by the agriculture sector, that is very low. It is actually the factor is that there are many more number of farmers. It's a huge population. Almost 50% of the population is under the agriculture sector. It is important that we reduce this size. In a developed economy, it is 2 to 3% of the farmers who are 2 to 3% of the population who are in the farming sector. Whereas in a country like India, it is almost 50%. Now, with 50% population in the farming community, I mean, it's very difficult to make a significant contribution in terms of GDP. What we need to do is basically that we reduce the farming population who are directly dependent on the agriculture. In this 5 years term, we should take some initiative where this 50% should come down in a progressive way. Maybe it should be 48% or that. India is producing huge amount of agriculture surpluses. We need to go for processing of those surpluses. It is important that today, whether we like or we don't like, the processed food is being more consumed by the population. So we need to go for processing, because once the food is processed, then there is a value addition. And the basic level processing should be done in the around the areas where the production of the food can take place. Then the farming community themselves can be part of this processing industry, and in the process they can increase their income, so therefore their development will take place. At the same time, the primary processing once done, which is being done, but it is not being done as significantly as it is in the developed countries. Then the loss in the agricultural produce, that will come down. And once the farmer's income increases by virtue of this being a contributory factor in the food processing, obviously the share of the farmers in the country's GDP will increase, and also the welfare of the farmers will also take place.
And towards this, Mr. Sinha, we've seen there have been several policies that the government did try to bring about, which will take care of the challenges that Dr. Purkayastha pointed out. But the biggest one that still remains is, and when we see the contribution of agriculture to GDP, it stands somewhere around 18%, but the agricultural sector engages about 46% of the workforce. So immediately to deal with that, what are some of the remedial measures that we can expect? And this comes because the Prime Minister again brings to the fact that we don't have time to waste. He's laid out a roadmap for Viksit Bharat, and he says speed and scale is something that will matter to him the most. Tough decisions will be taken. So as far as the agriculture sector is concerned, can we expect big bang reforms this time?
Amul is the brand of the Prime Minister's home state,
Yes.
Gujarat. And Amul going to the US as an exporter is a tremendous achievement and also a tremendous inspiration. It can be done by other such food processing industries in India. But for that, we have to have an awareness about gradation,
Yes.
and awareness about marketing, and the two put together should lead to an awareness of exportability. Amul now exports like anything to Russia, about 10,000 crores per year, and now it started exporting to the US also. I think with the creation of the Ministry of Cooperation in Mr. Modi's second government,
Yes.
was a very good signal that farmers will be more and more organized in cooperatives to give them the advantage of the scale of operations, because 85% of the farmers in India have land holdings of 2 hectares or less. So these people have no marketable surplus. Whatever they grow, they have to consume it. It is this 85%, if it can be tackled well and organized well by the Ministry of Cooperation, giving them a scale of operation which is massive, like Amul has become. I have no doubts that in Modi 3.0, the Indian rural economy will look up like anything.
Okay, Dr. Purkayastha, what are the kind of policies that you expect the Modi 3.0 government to take to ensure that all of these challenges that the agriculture sector is facing, we have solutions towards that, and especially at a time when we are also witnessing extreme weather challenges?
There should be one policy which addresses the problems of the small and marginal farmers. In fact, the small and marginal farmers, they are almost 95% to 98% holding of the country. Now, 95 to 98% of the holdings of the country are by small and marginal farmers. That means that the holding size is very small. And as Sinha sir has said, their production is very little, that they have very little incentive to take their produce to the market, the surplus amount to the market. So we need what we need today is basically aggregating those small surpluses into a sizable amount, so that the farmers group is interested in taking it to the market and also bargain for the price, in the sense that they don't at the intermediaries' choice, but they are able to bargain that yes, I will sell it at this price, and they can say that yes, that price will be remunerative. Today, it is not happening. or it is happening, but in a very little, not in that proportion as it should have been. So this is one sector where I feel that government will come with some policy changes or some new policies, because this is actually, as far as I understand, is the most limiting factor which is holding back the Indian agriculture taking a quantum jump.
Yes, yes. Mr. Sinha, how can we do that? Because the points that he is raising are something which are holding back our farmers. So how do we ensure that our farmers have access to pan-India markets?
I'll tell you, while trying to answer this question of yours, I'll go back to what you mentioned yourself a few minutes back about climate change issues. We need to diversify our cropping pattern so that the adverse effects of climate change are removed. Now, for example, if you take the case of Punjab, Punjab is completely dependent on paddy and wheat. Paddy is a water sucking crop. Now, Punjab has to get out of paddy and grow other produce to be able to ensure that Punjab doesn't become a desert, yes, and also to ensure that by the growth of boutique crops, they make more money. It can be done if, while pushing diversification of crops, the Government of India announces a package of incentives as a counter incentive for MSP for wheat and paddy. Our MSPs are good for those who have a marketable surplus in growing wheat and paddy, but MSP has increased so much that we are finding it difficult to export our wheat overseas because it has become very expensive. We need to slowly help the farmer diversify his crops by replacing paddy with other crops.
So how are we helping them? Are our current policies sufficient to ensure that the kind of diversification that we expect is happening at a faster pace? Also, that the fact that they move towards high value agriculture, it's high time that our farmers also think in that aspect.
We have to give them an assurance that were they to diversify from paddy to some other crop, they will continue to get same kinds of benefits as they get from MSP. If that happens, I have no doubt Indian farmer is extremely progressive. They will shift from paddy to other crops, especially in Punjab and Haryana.
Okay, Dr. Purkayastha, let me also hear your thoughts on the diversification of crops challenge. Where are we lagging behind? Do our current policies need some kind of an acceleration, or is lack of awareness also a problem?
I will differ a bit. The Punjab and Haryana farmers are the most prosperous farmers in the country. They on their own are capable of getting out diversification. And frankly, this wheat and paddy cycle that these farmers are continuing in those days, it is because of some vested interest. Well, I don't want to go into that. But what we should not miss out is this, that the diversification is required for those millions of farmers who are small and marginal, yes, and they are producing the same thing years after years after years. So we need to diversify. Now, you see, the jute was one crop which was grown up to, say, the east of UP. East UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Assam, Jharkhand, and parts of Odisha. Today, it is now limited. Some districts of sorry, not Assam, West Bengal that grows jute. Now, jute is such an important crop. It takes care of, see, its chances of getting paddies because of flood or no rain is very little. And it produces, jute will give you a natural fiber. It's one thing that, if the farmers continue with jute cultivation, then the jute can be used for other natural, other products where natural fibers are used instead of all this plastic. So there's a huge market in that, but somehow, because of the apathy of the government as well, I will say, because they are not encouraging natural products, so the jute is suffering. So that diversification, that sector is. Right. Now what we are doing is another thing is palm oil. this oil that we are getting from Indonesia and Malaysia. Now, see, as a country, we have been brought up with mustard oil. Now, why this mustard is not being grown more? Why we are using huge amount of money that we are actually we are spending on palm oil production. We have some parts of Mizoram, some parts of this Meghalaya, some parts of Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, where we have some rain. We are going. Okay, we grow, but then why not to encourage more mustard production, so that we have more and more mustard oil. So similarly, the soybean, it is tapped within the area of Maharashtra. It needs to be diversified into parts of UP, parts of Chhattisgarh, parts of Jharkhand, parts of Maharashtra, so that the farmers can grow this soybean and can also reap the harvest of that. So the diversification is more important for those farmers who are actually very poor on their own. They cannot carry out diversification. So there should be a scheme which should actually help these farmers, the small and marginal farmers, in diversifying their
Mr. Sinha, so the point that and what I can take away from the point that Dr. Purkayastha is making, we've seen self-reliance being pushed in a massive way in the other sectors, but perhaps it's time that in the Modi 3.0 government, agriculture sees that kind of push towards self-reliance, something that the point that Dr. Purkayastha made about mustard oil, the fact that we have to reduce our dependency on the huge import of oil from other countries.
I fully agree with that, and I fully agree with Mr. Purkayastha that mustard oil, coconut oil, these are natural to India and they are far healthier. We should ensure that our production and output of mustard oil and coconut oil goes up, so that we don't have to import palm oil and other such oils whose health factors we are not very sure of. It would help the Indian farmer and the consumer.
So, if I may ask you, the fact is that the Prime Minister puts his thrust on a roadmap that he sees for an inclusive Viksit Bharat by 2047. We have less time if we look at it that way. We are still a developing economy, but without agriculture realizing its full potential, Viksit Bharat will be a distant dream, and we of course don't want that. So how do we ensure that the full potential of the Indian agriculture sector is realized, and for which what is the kind of roadmap you see the government now following in the next 5 years?
I think the PM has already given the signal by ensuring that his first decision is to sign off 20,000 crores for the farmers in the Kisan Nidhi Yojana. So it would tend to motivate and inspire policymakers and administrators to find a package on how to have a geometrical development of the rural economy. If you were to ask me, I think we need better marketing, better gradation awareness, better exportability. If these three things are done, then all other rural industries would be able to achieve what Amul has achieved by exporting 10,000 crores worth of dairy products to Russia, and now on their way to do a similar thing for US.
Okay, Dr. Purkayastha, your last comment, sir, on how the agricultural sector in India can realize its full potential to effectively contribute towards realizing the dream of a Viksit Bharat by 2047.
The success of Amul is because they are able to aggregate their product. There, even 250 milliliter of milk is collected from the farm, as little as that. So what we need is that the millions of the small and marginal farmers who are there, they need to be brought together. They should be guided properly through some policy decisions, which includes every aspect of agriculture production scenario. If they can be galvanized into agriculture production, suddenly they will be Viksit Bharat to Viksit agriculture.
Absolutely. So the Prime Minister has made his intention very clear. The first file that he has signed is related to the welfare of the Annadatas of the country. So agriculture will remain at the core of the development strategy of the Modi 3.0 government as well. But do we see continuity in the policies, or do we see some kind of acceleration to the existing policies is something that we'll have to wait and watch. But for now, we'll have to wrap up the program. Thank you once again to both my guests for joining us on Sansad TV and sharing their thoughts and perspective with us and our viewers. And thank you to you viewers for your time as well. I'll see you same time tomorrow now. Take good care of yourselves. Keep watching Sansad TV.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.